Got you.
Okay.
Moreh.
All right. So we are on.
Mhm.
All right. Let's get started here. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I hope that today is brought forth in gladness in the Father and our mediator, Yahusha. I see as it has. Um, you all see the title, Deliver Me. Free your mind and the rest will follow. Now, I say this because you have to have a certain mindset when it comes to truly being set free. I mean, being set free, I mean, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, and even financially. You know, if these things don't line up, you know, then the whole operation of free your mind fails. You know, just like with every lesson the mores do, we talk about conditions, and this lesson will be no different. You know, you have to be able to do something in order to get the result that you're looking for. All right. So, due to a lot of the things that are happening right now, the inner man of many is starting to expose itself. And keep in mind, I'm talking about people in the truth. You know, the people in the outside world, they're going to do what they do. We can't, there's nothing we can do about that. But when you stand on shaky ground because you're not, how should I say, on a spiritual set foundation, all right, you can start to panic and you cry out for the Father to save you, deliver you, rescue you. So then the question has to be, what have you done as a requirement in order for the Father to deliver you or save you or rescue you? Now, I don't think some people realize that those things that I've just mentioned can go both ways, right? The Father can deliver you from, or he can deliver you to, right? He can choose to save and or rescue or not. And just like we've been reading over and over again, Torah portions and all this, you saw it in there with our ancestors. His decision is based on your actions. So, with that said, let's take a look at deliverance. All right. The action of being rescued or set free, i.e., prayers for deliverance. And similar, it means to be released, rescue, emancipation, salvation, and manumission. Now let's look at release. Release as a verb. All right. Allow or enable to escape from confinement or set free. Now keep in mind, these are worldly definitions that we're looking at right now. All right. So, i.e., the government announced that the prisoners would be released. And similarly, we're going to look at deliver, rescue, emancipate, untie, loose, unbind, unchain, unshackle. These are all opposite of imprison or tie up. All right. It's also meaning allow something to move or act or flow freely. So she released his arm and pushed him aside. Now keep some of these definitions in mind. All right. Rescue, salvation, deliver. Keep those things in mind. All right. So this leads us into the last two definitions I have. First, we have emancipation. All right. The fact or process of being set free from legal, social, or political restrictions. Liberation, i.e., the emancipation of the feminist ideas. And similarly, setting free, it goes at release again, letting loose, unchaining, unshackling, unyoking, and manumission. Now, this is the world's view on deliverance, all right, or being delivered or set free, being rescued or salvation, even breaking the chains of slavery. Now, for most, the thinking is that slavery hasn't really ended, has it? You know, but around the world, physical and mental slavery is still very much alive. Here in the U.S., people will say that it's more mental. You know, noting that the only change with slavery when it comes to the states is the method in which it's administered. You know, my point is that you are in the truth. So mental, physical, spiritual deliverance is different for us. Thus it comes with its own set of rules. You know, we can't rely on the things that we were taught in school and think that that's the way Yahuah is going to handle our situations. Think about it. Is that what happened when, when Yahuah freed the people from Egypt? No. There were still things that the people had to do. Honestly, there were still things that had to get done in order to ensure that you got out of the land with everyone else. And guess what? If you didn't do it, you weren't leaving. And in this time that we are in this time of chaos, unfortunately, people, have still forgotten that it's going to take work for you to get delivered from the evil that surrounds you. Sure, the Father can point you in the right direction. The question is, are you going to go the route, or are you going to stay behind because that's where you're most comfortable? You have to understand decisions have to be made. You hear all this, we say it all the time, time is running out. But the thing is, you got to understand that it's not necessarily regarding the Messiah's return. But look at the present day of age. We talk about the days are getting shorter. Well, in return, you're getting older. So we don't have as much time as to get ourselves together as we would think we have. My 40th birthday is on the 19th. I promise you, I just turned 21. I have no clue where the time is gone. All right. So keep that in mind as we go through this lesson. Also keep that in mind when you're listening to other Moreh's lessons. All these instructions that are being given do have a time limit on them. You're not going to always have this chance to get it right? So you might as well get it right now. Okay. And the last one we're going to look at is manumission. And this is a release from slavery. All right. So the 1782 laws were also permitted masters to free their slaves on their own accord. Previously, a manumission had required obtaining consent from the state legislature, which was arduous and rarely granted. Slave states such as Virginia made it easier for slaveholders to free their slaves. Like emancipation, manumission looks to the individual. Specifically, manumission refers to the same transition to which emancipation refers, but also provides an additional information, namely that the emancipation of a given slave was a result of voluntary act of the given individual's so-called owner. In short, manumission is the act of a slave owner voluntarily emancipating one or more of his or her slaves, even though the given jurisdiction still recognizes the legal institution of slavery. So here in the States, that was the equivalent of being told, show me your papers. As you can see right there, that manumission certificate. So my point throughout this whole lesson is what I want you to understand. Are you really free when you think you are? Or are there different definitions? And just remember what I said, the Father can either deliver you to or from, right? So it depends on you. All right, deliver from the Old Testament. The concept of deliverance occurs in the Old Testament with two meanings. The first is a non-theological sense signifying deliver over or give over into the possession or power of another. Now, the Hebrew word is Nathan, appears over 1,200 times in the Old Testament with this meaning, okay? It's a prime root to give, all right? Used with great latitude of application. And you go to the bottom, you see there it says to deliver or deliver up. Now, it encompasses an especially broad concept whose fundamental meaning is not give or make a gift, but rather extend the hand in order to place an object at a specific place or to give it over to another person with or without compensation as a possession. All right. So that's the give over to part. from Yahuah. Now, most often the term refers to people delivered in the power of others, usually their enemies, right? You are heard it before. Yahuah hates us, so he brought us out of Egypt to deliver us in the hands of the Amorites to destroy us. I know that one. Deuteronomy 127. And you murmured in the tents and said, because Yahuah hated us, he has brought us out of the land of Egypt of Mizraim to give Nathan us into the hand of the Amorites to destroy us. That's how they were thinking back then. You know, their whole thought process, you took us out of our comfort zone to kill us, not to rescue us like we begged you to do. Remember, they the ones who wanted this. And that's why I'm saying I don't really think people in this day and age really truly understand you have to have the proper mindset for what you ask the Father for. There's a lot of vain repetition when it comes to these things because you're not in the right frame of mind. All right. The second usage of deliverance refers to the acts of Elohim whereby he rescues his people from danger. The key words, Nasal, draw out or snatch away. You have Palet, make an escape. Malet, to cause to escape. Halas, to draw out. And Yasha, to save. Fall within the field of meaning describing Elohim's redemptive activity on the part of his people. This usage of deliverance focuses on Elohim's removal of those who are in the midst of trouble or danger. So here we have the H5337. That's all, right? It's a prime root to snatch away, whether in the good or bad sense, all right? So you have, it goes those words again that we read from the worldly definitions: deliver, rescue, right? If you go down where we talk, it goes down in the Chaldee, it says to snatch out of danger. And even if in the Aramaic, it means to deliver or rescue. All right. The basic meaning of this verb is to snatch away from danger. Now, some of these words should look familiar to you, like I said before, from the worldly definitions. The only difference, like I said before, is that when it comes to the Father and delivering you in and out of a situation, that depends on what you do as an individual. The Father can do all this stuff. He can snatch you away from a good situation and place you in something bad, and vice versa. He can take you out of that dire situation and place you in something much, much better. You know, what you do can determine your outcome. All right. But as it stands for right now, the verb basically denotes snatching away or removing someone from harm, i.e., rescuing them. We can see this in Genesis 32 and 11. Please deliver, well, that's all, me from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, that he may come and attack me, the mothers with the children. Now, just in case you don't know why Jacob is scared of his brother Esau, Jacob stole the blessing his father Isaac had for Esau. So I would think that would be some cause for concern for Jacob. So what ended up happening? He fled to Haran to his mother Rebekah's brother's house. Now, even though Jacob asked the father for help, what did he have to do? Jacob had to confront the problem he left to escape in the first place, which was his brother Esau. Now think about that in today's terms, running away from your mistakes instead of acknowledging them. How many of us still do that? You get all that stuff in that closet, you just keep pushing back to the side, not even trying to deal with it. That's an issue. Let's keep going. Judges 6, 7 to 10. When the people of Israel cried out to Yahuah on account of the Midianites, Yahuah sent a prophet to the people of Israel. And he said to them, thus says Yahuah, the Elohim of Israel, I led you up from Egypt of Mizraim and brought you out of the house of slavery. And I delivered, that's all, you from the hand of the Egyptians and from the hand of all who oppressed you, and drove them out before you and gave you their land. And I said to you, I am Yahuah your Elohim. You should not fear the Elohims of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But you have not obeyed my voice. Now, we can compare this with Joshua 24:15. And if it is evil in your eyes to serve Yahuah, choose this day whom you will serve, whether the Elohims your father served in the region beyond the river, or the Elohims of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve Yahuah. How can you honestly feel comfortable going to the Father knowing you're not doing anything he told you to do? You have to hold up your end of the deal, which was a covenant that was agreed upon on Mount Sinai, right? If you're in this truth, you agree on that covenant, and you get to understand. Just like, see, here's where the mindset thing changes. Understand that in the Father's presence was with the people, and they still wanted to go back to their old ways, right? So it's a little different for us today, but the concept is still the same. They made an agreement, and they have to follow by it. Now, in Psalms 51:16, all right, the word Nathan is used of rescuing from transgressions and blood guilt. So let's read that. For you will not delight in sacrifice, or I would give it. You will not be pleased with a burnt offering. All right. Now, also, Elohim can rescue or Nasal people, but no one can deliver or Nasal people from Elohim's hand. Let's read that in Deuteronomy 32:39. See, now that I, even I, am He, I am the self-existent, some translations say, and there is no Elohim besides me. I kill and I make alive, and I wound and I heal, and there is none that can deliver out of my hand. Now, no other deity can control events and has power over life and death. Remember last lesson when we talked about how the other deities of the ancient Near East were not capable of controlling, you know, the destiny of the world without help. So what did they do? In Mesopotamia, they had these tablets of destiny texts, remember, which contained the destinies of all the things, including the other gods in the universe. And they go around, they had on those little sorcerer hats and all that stuff, just to say that, Yahuah controls all things, and without resorting to superficial means of tablets or spells. If he wants it done, it will get done. And that's just the end of it. All right. So in the Old Testament, Elohim's deliverance is almost always from temporal dangers. So does anybody know what temporal means? Anybody? Anybody help me out? Mhm. So temporal meaning, relating to worldly as opposed to spiritual affairs, something secular, right? So we can read that he rescued his people from their enemies. We can read that here in 1 Samuel 17:36 and 37, and 2 Kings 20:6. And David or Dawood said, Yahuah, who delivered or not saw me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear, will deliver or not saw me from the hand of this Philistine. And Shaul said to David, go and Yahuah be with you. 2 Kings 20:6. And I will add 15 years to your life. I will deliver you and this city out of the hand of the king of Assyria. And I will defend this city for my own sake and for my servant David's sake. Now, this is why everybody was reading today from a lot of people were reading from Psalms. David had a lot of influence. Remember what we said about David before. He had a lot of confidence to go to the Father to ask for such things because of what? What did he do? Well, most of the time is, there's some time he messed up, but he obeyed the Father, right? So he was doing what needed to be done. So we right off the bat, we're going back to those conditions, right? David was doing what he was told. And we know that later as king, he messed up, but he was punished for it like he should have been. But going back to 1 Samuel 17:36, even on the battlefield, David showed faith in Yahuah. All right. And how many of you are ready to go out there in that battlefield for Yahuah? Mhm. How many of you got your slingshots ready? I know Moreh Chanan and Gadal got their slingshots. Who else got their slingshots ready? All right. Despite all his sins and shortcomings, Dawood was a man after Elohim's own heart, right? So he knew and he understood the wondrous love of Elohim, and he knew that Elohim was his refuge from trouble and struggle in life, especially knowing that he was keeping what Yahuwah told him to do. Those are those benefits that you get when you're doing what the Father wants you to do. All right. So Elohim perverse. He preserves them from famine. And we can read that in Psalms 33 and 19. He will preserve people from death, which we'll read in Psalms 22, 19 to 21. And he will preserve them from the grave, which we'll read in Psalms 56, 13 and 86 and 13. So Psalms 33 and 19, that he may deliver their soul from death and keep them alive in famine. Psalms 22, 19 and 21. But you, O Yahuwah, do not be far off. O you, my help, come quickly to my aid. Deliver my soul from the sword, my precious life from the power of the dog. Save me from the mouth of the lion. You have rescued me from the horns of the wild oxen. And Psalms 56 and 13. You have delivered my soul from death. Yes, my feet from falling, that I may walk before Elohim in the light of life. And Psalms 86 and 13. For great is your steadfast love toward me. You have delivered my soul from the depths of Sheol. Now, so all of this is this David showing us that he is confident Yahuwah will deliver and protect those who trust in him. That's why the question always gets asked, where is your faith in all matters concerning this walk? You know, who are you really doing this for? Are you doing it to give the Father all the praise and esteem, or are you doing it to looking for a way out? Now, the most striking deliverance was the Exodus, obviously. And we'll read some of that in Exodus 3, 8, 6, 6, and 18:10. This comprises the defining act of Elohim as the deliverer of Israel. So we start here in Exodus 3 and 8. And I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians and to bring them up out of that land to a good and broad land, a land flowing with milk and honey, to the place of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. In Exodus 6 and 6, say therefore to the people of Israel, I am Yahuwah, and I will bring you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians. And I will deliver you from slavery to them, and I will redeem you with an outstretched arm and with great acts of judgment. In Exodus 18 and 10, Jethro said, blessed be Yahuwah, who has delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians and out of the hand of Pharaoh, and has delivered the people from under the hand of the Egyptians. So let's go back to Exodus 6:6 for a second. In the verse, it says, and I will redeem you. The Hebrew word for redeem is ga'al. It's a prime root, redeem. But there you see there, it says deliver, right? Now now this occurs in social and legal context with respect to kinship laws and rights, right? The Goel, or the Redeemer, was a kinsman charged with the responsibility to preserve or require the family's property and individual members. Now, over time, the term became more abstract and theological as it was used to describe Elohim's actions towards Israel, i.e. Exodus 4 and 22. Then you shall say to Pharaoh, thus says Yahuwah, Israel is my firstborn. Okay. He's a redeemer. Now, with redeeming, we're going to get into rescuing. So we have the H44 and 22. Malat. All right, it's the prime root to be smooth. By implication, to escape, as if by slipperiness. All right, to release or rescue. In a dictionary of biblical languages with semantic domains, you have save, deliver, rescue. Deliver one from danger and so cause one to be safe. Now, it's a verb basically to mean to flee, be rescued, to save, rescue. Some forms refer to fleeing or being rescued from danger, while other forms refer to saving or rescuing someone. All right. So either you are the rescued or you are the one that's doing the rescuing. All right. The most common forms of this verb denote fleeing from danger to safety. We can see this in Genesis 19 and 17. And as they brought them out, one said, "Escape for your life. Do not look back or stop anywhere in the valley. Escape to the hills, lest you be swept away." Now, we can also read in Psalms 22 and 5 of being rescued from danger. To you they cried in and were rescued. In you they trusted and were not put to shame. Now, how many of us are stuck in a situation where we don't know how to escape our past? You ask the Father for help just like our ancestors of old asked for help, only to want to run back to something familiar, right? You want to be released from the torment that the past represents. The Father gives you the path for escape, but something inside you be like, nah, all right, I don't know. I don't want to go back. Well, what else do you expect the Father to do at that point? This is where the mindset change comes in, because you have to put forth the effort when it comes to the Father. He's not just going to give it to you. He's just not going to just give you what you want. You know, I said in the last lesson, and I'll say it again, rejecting is one of the ways to get yourself in trouble. Rejecting his word is rejecting your salvation. You don't want the help, so therefore you don't apply yourself. I'm not saying that it won't be difficult, if he's giving you this way out. I'm not gonna say that it's not gonna be difficult, and I won't say they won't be hard, or no, I'm not saying that you won't fall down a couple of times, but the effort still has to be there. Applying yourself is still key. Now, do you know what applying yourself will do? It will bring about that aha moment. Y'all know about the aha moment, right? That's when you've been asking and praying and researching something, but it wasn't quite clicking, right? Then all of a sudden, aha! Now, those are the best moments in this walk, when you work so hard and you finally see the rewards and the benefits of that work. All right. Then what happens? Well, what should happen is you giving the Father all the praise and esteem for bringing you through whatever it is that you were going through. Hallelujah. All right. So, what all this is saying is, again, that we can see that by trusting in the Father, he heard their cry and he rescued them. Okay. All right. Other forms denote rescuing or delivering from danger. For example, Isaiah 31 and 5 says that Elohim will rescue Jerusalem. All right. Isaiah 31 and 5, like birds hovering. So Yahuah of hosts will protect Jerusalem or Jerusalem. He will protect and deliver it. He will spare and rescue it. Now, Chaletz, H2502. It's a prime root to pull off, hence to strip, to depart, or here we go again, to deliver. All right. Draw off, take off, withdraw, rescue, be rescued. Okay. And as a verb, to rescue, deliver, to be rescued. Some grammatical forms can refer to rescuing, while others can refer to being rescued. So again, you can make that distinction. Either you are the one doing the rescuing or you are the one being rescued. Okay. The verb has a variety of different senses, which are partly associated with different grammatical forms. The main relevant sense, to rescue, occurs almost exclusively in poetic texts. That's what you've been reading throughout all the Psalms, which often speak of Elohim delivering people from trouble. We can see that here in Psalms 6 and 4 and 140 and 1. Turn, O Yahuwah, deliver my life. Save me for the sake of your steadfast love. Then Psalms 140 and 1. Deliver me, O Yahuah, from evil men. Preserve me from violent men. So I told you David was a bad man with these lyrics. Now, so we can see how David emphatically petitions Yahuah for deliverance using three different Hebrew terms that can be translated. Now, the first one you see up there is shuv, the term. Then you have deliver as klas, and then you have save of his yasha. Now, David appeals to Yahuah to deliver his life. The Hebrew word shuv, turn, often describes Yahuah turning away from his anger. So we have David who wanted Yahuah to turn his anger and discipline away and restore him. Now, other grammatical forms mean to be rescued. We can see that in Psalm 60 and 5. That your beloved ones may be delivered. Give salvation by your right hand and answer us. Now, unlike the verb yasha, to save, and related words, chalatz is not used in a sense of victory or prosperity, though it is used of being rescued from military enemies, as we can see in Psalms 18 and 19. He brought me out into a broad place. He rescued me because he delighted in me. Now, in Psalms 91:15, Elohim will rescue and honor the faithful person who calls on him. Conditions. When he calls to me, I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will rescue him and honor him. There goes those conditions again. All right, then we have the H6403. All right, Palet. It's a prime root to slip out, i.e. escape, to deliver or deliver. Escape, survive, be out of danger by taking refuge in another place, i.e. the land, which I hope to get Palate to in the near future. Hallelujah. Then you have rescued or delivered. You see the pattern here. It's all about being rescued or delivered, right? So he rescues his people from the hand of the wicked. We will see this in Psalms 17 and 13, Psalms 18, 16 and 19, Psalms 59 and 2, 69 and 14, and 71 and 4. Starting with 17 and 13. Arise, O Yahuah, comfort him, subdue him, deliver my soul from the wicked by your sword. Psalms 18, 16 and 19. He sent from on high, he took me, he drew me out of many waters. He rescued me from my strong enemy and from those who hated me, for they were too mighty for me. They comforted me in the day of my calamity, but Yahuah was my support. He brought me out into a broad place. He rescued me because he delighted in me. Psalms 59 and 2. Deliver me from those who work evil and save me from bloodthirsty men. Now, this is speaking to those who still insist on trying to fight their own battles. All right. For we wrestle against what? Somebody help me out there. What's that verse? For we do not wrestle against what and what? Somebody got to know that verse.
For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood.
Flesh and blood.
Mm-hmm. Now,
Against
most versions
Yeah.
would say principalities, right? But against the rulers and against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. If you're doing what you're supposed to do, you should have all the faith that the Father will see you through that stuff, even if it's hard for you. You shouldn't be trying to fight this on your own. It's a losing battle. That's why he's put things and he's put people in place to help you. But again, it comes down to that word that I'm gonna keep using throughout this whole lesson is conditions. You have to put forth some effort. We've done many lessons on different tests, right? Say the Father tests you all the time. But those tests are going to require application. This isn't just call out and expect something. No. What are you doing? How are you helping yourself first? So that's where the mindset change has to come in. You have to want the change. Because Moreh Chanan says it all the time, the Father's not trying to change the situation. What's he doing? He's trying to change you. But do you see that? Or are you just in a position where, something needs to get done and that's what you want? You want the Father just to change what you need for him to change, nothing else. And surprisingly, I know people like that. People think that the Father owes them something. But that's not the case at all, right? All right, let's keep going. Then we have, let's see, Psalm 69:14 and Psalm 71:4. Deliver me from sinking in the mire. Let me be delivered from my enemies and from the deep waters. Rescue me, O my Elohim, from the hand of the wicked, from the grasp of the unjust and cruel man. Elohim delivers his people from sin and its consequences. Didn't say he didn't punish you. Although mentioned infrequently, completes the picture of Elohim as a deliverer from all of humankind's fears. And we'll read this in Psalms 39:8, 40:11 to 13, and Psalms 51:14 and 79:9. Starting with Psalm 39:8. Deliver me from all my transgressions. Do not make the scorn of the fool. Do not make me the scorn of the fool. Now, the Hebrew word for transgression in this verse is the H6588. All right, the pesha means a revolt or rebellion. My first lesson we talked about this. All right. So now the root of that word is the H6586, which is pasha. And this is where it gets interesting, okay? It means to break away from just authority, all right? So there you have it. You can't expect the Father to deliver you or rescue you or help you escape, save you even, if you break away from him. All right, that's the lesson. God bless, good night. No, I'm playing. You have to have an understanding that there's a covenant in place. All right? And he wants you to do a certain thing. And when you do those certain things, there are some rewards or some benefits that come with that. Some perks. This isn't like the Domino's commercial of, something for nothing. All right. Elohim delivers his people from sin and consequences. I read that. So here we have Psalms 40:11 to 13. As for you, O Yahuah, you will not restrain your mercy from me. Your steadfast love and your faithfulness will ever preserve me. For evils have encompassed me beyond number. My iniquities have overtaken me, and I cannot see. They are more than the hairs on my head, of my head. My heart fails me. Be pleased, O Yahuah, to deliver me. O Yahuah, make haste to help me. Now, as David turns to lament, he emphasizes his trust in Yahuah's steadfast love and faithfulness. What do you do, when you pray? Are you confessing your sins, supplications, iniquities? Are you praising the Father, letting him know he's faithful all the time? Thanking him for bringing you into the knowledge of him. These are the things that David did day in and day out. These things kept his mind right? It kept him focused on the Father. Until he had that little mix up with Bathsheba, but hey, he's human. But my point is, that he was in the right state of mind for the most part when he came to Yahuah and requested certain things, right? Okay. Okay, last two verses in this set here. Psalms 51:14 and Psalm 79:9. Deliver me from the blood guiltiness, O Elohim of my salvation. And my tongue will sing aloud of your righteousness. Psalm 79:9. Help us, O Elohim of our salvation. For the glory or the esteem of your name, deliver us and atone for our sins for your name's sake. All right. The fact that Elohim delivers as he does um, is a polemic against the pagan rulers who challenge his ability to rescue his people. All right. And we can see this when it came to Nebuchadnezzar. All right. Now, polemic is just a strong verbal or written attack on someone or something. All right. And we can see this in Daniel 3:15 and Daniel 3:28. And ironically, Moreh Chanan talked about this just a briefly in his lesson today. Now, if you are ready when you hear the sound of the horn, pipe, lyre, the trigon, the harp, the bagpipe, and every kind of music, to fall down and worship the image that I have made, well and good. But if you do not worship, you shall immediately be cast into a burning fiery furnace. And who is the Elohim who will deliver you out of my hands? Hmm? Then we have Daniel 3:28. Nebuchadnezzar answered and said, Blessed be the Elohim of Shadrach, Meshach, and and Abednego. My bad, I was about to say something. Who has sent his angel and delivered his servants who trusted in him and set aside the king's command and yielded up their bodies rather than serve and worship any Elohim except their own Elohim. Now, let this be a lesson in understanding what the benefits are to obeying the word of Yahuah. Case in point, with all this COVID stuff that's going around. As you recall, they shut down all the quote unquote religious activities, right? Going to church or any type of gathering. Well, during that time when they did that, the feast days were among us. Now, were we going to disobey the Father because the government said so? I think not. And guess what? Nothing happened. Nobody went to jail. Nobody got sick. Why? Because we knew that doing the Father's business was more important than anything going on in this world right now. You see what I'm saying? This is how you get delivered from your enemies. One, understanding what the Father tells you to do. And two, actually putting those things that he tells you to do into action. It will do wonders for you. All right. All right. Hold on. Now back into Daniel 3:28. This subsequent rescue serves as a demonstration of Elohim's ability to deliver his people from the most powerful worldly forces. All right. We talked about this somewhat last lesson. Again, remember, Yahuah controls all things. Sorry, people ride their motorcycle. Yahuah controls all things. The Father doesn't need the help of anybody or anything, right? He creates, he destroys for his will and for his purpose. Okay, so with that being said, Elohim is the great deliverer, right? There are no manipulative ploys by his people to effect his intervention. All acts of deliverance are totally his initiative and express his mercy and his love. We can see that in these two verses here in Psalms 51:1 and Psalm 71:2. Have mercy on me, or be gracious to me, or Chanan, O Elohim, according to your steadfast love, according to your abundant mercy, blot out my transgressions. Remember what transgressions was, right? So he's saying, blot out my rebellion or my turning away from a just authority. Huh? So Psalm 71:2. In your righteousness, deliver me and rescue me. Incline your ear to me and save me. Now, because David or Dawood believes himself to be righteous, he also believes that Elohim, as a just judge, should protect him and punish the wicked. In other words, just like we've been discussing, if you're doing what you're supposed to do, you have nothing to worry about. right. Now, we can compare this to Psalms 9 and 8. And he judges the world with righteousness. He judges the people with uprightness. Mm. All right. Therefore, there is no one to rescue the ungodly or the unrighteous. See that in Psalms 15 and 22. Mark this, then you who forget Elohim, lest I tear you apart, and there be none to deliver. All right. So Elohim's deliverance is for his people, those who trust and fear him. To the faithful, you show yourself faithful. You save the humble, but bring low those whose eyes are haughty. We see this in Psalms 18, 25 and 27. With the merciful, you show yourself merciful. With the blameless man, you show yourself blameless. In Psalms 18, 27, for you save a humble people, but the haughty eyes you bring down. Now, often the people's fear of Yahuah and trust in him are seen as part of deliverance. We see this in Psalms 33, 18 to 19 and 34 and 7. Behold, the eye of Yahuah is on those who fear or Yahweh him, on those who hope is in steadfast love, that he may deliver their soul from death and keep them alive in famine. 34 and 7. The angel or the Malach of Yahuah encamps around those who fear him and delivers them. Now remember, long time ago when Moreh was in the land, we did a lesson on reverence for Yahuah, right? Yahweh, H3372. It's prime root to fear, to revere, or have reverence for. All right. Leviticus 19:32. You shall stand up before the gray head and honor the face of an old man, and you shall fear your Elohim. I am Yahuah. Now, their righteousness preserves them. We see that in Proverbs 11:6, Ezekiel 14:14, and 14:20. But if they indulge in sin and rebellion, Elohim may deliver them over to their enemies. So there goes that either deliver you to or deliver you from. And we also read it in 1 Kings 8:46, Jeremiah 20:5, and Ezekiel 11:8 through 9. So starting in Proverbs 11:6, the righteousness of the upright delivers them, but the treacherous are taken captive by their lust. Now, we're going to stop right there. The word here for lust is the H1942, hava. All right. Coveting and rushing upon, by implication of falling, desire, also ruin or calamity, iniquity, mischief, mischievous, or very wickedness. All right. The word hava is usually connected with men who are unfaithful and rebellious against Elohim, who are not willing to adapt themselves to the good ordinances of Elohim, but pervert the right according to their evil desires. Now, let's take a look at Micah 7:3. Their hands are on what is evil, to do it well. The prince and the judge ask for a bribe, and the great man utters the evil desires of his soul. Thus they have weaved it together. Now, let's read that from the Septuagint. They are preparing their hands for evil. The chief asketh, and the judge have spoken words of peace. He is entirely at his devotion. Therefore, I will take away their good things like a consuming moth, advancing regularly in the day of visitation. Now, looks a little different, right? Here's the thing. The ESV version has his soul, and we know that the Hebrew word for soul is what? It's nefesh, right? So this is speaking of hava nefesh, i.e. the inner desire of a man, which leads to an evil and perverted action. So no matter what version you're reading, here we go again talking about the inner man. I ain't think we can get away with a lesson without talking about the inner man, right? It's always going to be there. But wickedness in the long run will always show itself. Now, with that being said, Hava is thus connected with the Rashaim, which are the wicked. And we'll see that in Proverbs 10:3. All right, it's also dealt with the Bogain. We'll see that as well. But here we go. Proverbs 10:3. Yahuwah does not let the righteous go hungry, but he thrusts the craving of the wicked or the Rasha. And we talked about Rasha before being wicked. Now, let's read Proverbs 11:6 again. The righteousness of the upright delivers them, but the treacherous or the begad are taken captive by their lust. All right. So just to refresh your memory, we have Rasha, which is an adjective meaning wicked or guilty, describes one who is guilty of crimes or sins or whose behavior is categorized by wickedness. But then you have the H90, 898, which is begad. It means to cover, to act covertly, or to pull the wool over someone's eyes, to speak, right? To deal deceitfully, treacherously, unfaithfully. Now, the point is that man must hearken to the voice of Yahuwah and adapt himself to the ordinance of Yahuwah in order to be able to act righteously. When a man breaks free from Elohim and does not get his wisdom from him, he deprives himself of a good life. He then becomes a Rasha. He becomes wicked, a wicked person, or Rashaim. Right? Obegad, he becomes a treacherous person who follows the impulses and innate desires of his evil heart, which leads to malice, lying, perversity, oppression, etc. All the things that are not of the Father, basically. All right. So calamity. So the word hava occurs 16 times in the Old Testament. 10 times it occurs in the plural, and twice it is written as haya. So let's look at Job, Iob 6:2. Oh, that my vexation were weighed, and all my calamity laid in the balances. Now, H1962, haya. All right, it means ruined or calamity. All right. Now, let's go to the world's definition of calamity. It's a noun, is an event causing great and often sudden damage or distress. A disaster, i.e., the journey had led to calamity and ruin. So you can see all these right here, as similar as the disaster, a catastrophe, tragedy, cataclysm. All of this is the opposite of being a godsend or a blessing. Right? So the righteous preserves them. We continue here with Ezekiel 14:14 and 14:20. But if they indulge in the sin and rebellion, Elohim may deliver them over to their enemies, right? So Ezekiel 14:14. Even if these three men, Noah, Daniel, and Job, were in it, they will deliver but their own lives by their righteousness, declares Yahuwah. Ezekiel 14:20. Even if Noah, Daniel, and Job were in it, as I live, declares Yahuwah Elohim, they will deliver neither son nor daughter. They will deliver but their own lives by their righteousness. Now, the righteousness of these three cannot be transferred to save anyone else from judgment, right? The theme is similar to Abraham's plea to Yahuwah, to spare Sodom for the sake of 10 righteous men. Remember that? You can read that in Genesis 18:32. But here, even the presence of these three legendary righteous men, world-renowned men, would not be enough to spare anyone else. Right? Now, this should be, structured as case law. No, if X, then Y. If you do or do not do this, then this good or bad thing will happen in return. All right. It's just all of another example of conditions. But the underlying issue is whether the righteousness of a few can delay the judgment of many. And for what you read here in Ezekiel, the answer is no. What does the Father say about those who sin against him? Exodus 32 and 33. But now, if you will forgive their sin, but if not, please blot me out of your book that you have written. But Yahuwah said to Moses, whoever has sinned against me, I will blot out of my book. Ezekiel 11, 7 to 10. Therefore, thus says Yahuah, your dead men whom you have slain in the midst of it, they are the flesh, and it is the cauldron. As for you, I will drag you out of the midst of it. You are afraid of the sword. Therefore, I will bring the sword against you, saith Yahuah, and drag you out of the midst of it, and deliver you into the hands of strangers, and execute judgment upon you. By this word you shall fall. On the mountain of Israel I will judge you, and you shall know that I am Yahuah. 1 Kings 8 and 46. Because they will sin against thee, for there is no man who will not sin, when thou shalt punish them and deliver them up before their enemies. And they who have captivated them shall carry them away captive to a land far off or near. And Jeremiah 20 and 5, I will deliver all the strength of this city and all the labors therefore, and all the treasures of the king of Judah or Yehudah into the hands of his enemies, and they shall carry them to Babylon. So again, when man breaks free from Elohim and does not get his wisdom from him, he deprives himself of a good life. You set yourself up for failure. Now, keep in mind, like I always try to stress, this is pertaining to people in the truth, right? The people outside the truth are going to do what they do. Their expectations and or things hoped for are different and therefore do not come from the Father, but the adversary. Now, that's a whole nother lesson. Now, I think we may need to revisit the lesson, the wrath of Yahuwah. I know you all remember that one. Remember, we talked about why the Father gets angry and punishes those who he loves and not of those who he doesn't, right? So maybe in the future, the Father says so. Okay, let's continue. Well, what I'm saying is that just like with everything else in this walk, there are conditions. I keep saying it over and over again. If you break away from those conditions, there will be consequences. All right. Now, this brings us into the New Testament a little bit. The New Testament, as in the Old Testament, both meanings of deliverance are found in the New Testament. The Greek word, paradiomi, deliver over, is used to describe the deliverance of people. And we can see that in Matthew 5:25, 20 and 19. And we can see about it in goods in Matthew 25 and 14 over to another. Now, G3860, all right, the paradiomi is means to surrender, i.e., yield up, betray, bring forth, cast, commit, deliver up, give over. All right, and we can see example here in Matthew 5 and 25. Be at agreement with thy prosecutor, for with and while on the way with him, lest the prosecutor deliver thee up to the judge, and the judge deliver thee over to the sheriff, and thou fall into the house of prisoners. I'm reading all this from the Syriac New Testament translated into the English front of Pichetto. All right, so Matthew 20 and 19. And deliver him over to the Gentiles to be mocked and flogged and crucified, and he will be raised on the third day. For it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted them to his property. All right. So traditions and doctrine are also delivered to others. See this in Mark 7:13 and Acts 6:8-14, with the idea that those who receive them will take possession of them as valuable commodities. So Mark 7 and 13, and ye reject the word of Elohim on account of the tradition which ye hand down, and many things like these ye do. In Acts 6:8-14, and Stephen was full of grace and energy, and he wrought signs and prodigies among the people. And there rose up some of the synagogue, which he called that of the freedmen, the Syrians and the Alexandrians, and persons from Cilicia and from Asia, and they disputed with Stephen. And they could not withstand the wisdom and the spirit that spoke by him. Then they sent men and instructed them to say, we have heard him speak words of blasphemy against Moses and against Elohim. And they excited the people and the elders and the scribes, and they came and rose upon him and seized him and carried him into the midst of the council. And they set up false witness who said, this man ceaseth not to utter words contrary to the law. and against this holy or set apart place. For we have heard him say that this Yahushua the Nazarene will destroy this place and will change the rights which Moses delivered. Now, where have we heard this before? Mark 14:56 to 58. For many bore fast a false witness against him, but their testimony did not agree. And some stood up and bore false witness against him, saying, we have heard him say, I will destroy this temple that is made with hands, and in these days I will build another, not made with hands. Now, the second usage of deliverance is seen in the occurrence of the word rumame, which is used most often in the New Testament to reflect the idea of deliverance from danger or distress. Now, rumame is the G4506. Okay, it's the idea to rush or draw for oneself, i.e., rescue or deliver. All right, to rescue from danger with the implication that danger is in question. In question is severe or acute, to rescue or to deliver. Now, Elohim is always a subject, and his people are always the objects of deliverance. All right, so we can go back to the temporal discussion that we did before. The temporal deliverance is so dominant in the Old Testament that it falls into the background in the New. However, the historical accounts in the Old Testament serve as proof that Elohim is the great deliverer. You can't stop what he's going to do. All right. There's no stopping it. If he's made his mind up that he's going to do it, it's going to happen. And you hear Moreh say it all the time. The Brit Kadashah reflects the Torah, right? You cannot have the new without the old. So going back to, let's go back here to Acts 6, lining up with Mark 14. You know, they tried to blaspheme. Well, they tried to they tried to lie on the Messiah, right? But he endured it because he had that type of mindset. This whole lesson is about expressing what type of mindset that you need to have. All right. And then I meant not the Messiah, but Stephen. Stephen was acting on good faith. So they were trying to come against Stephen. But what I'm trying to say is that, you know, being in this walk, and I'm probably going to say this again before this is over with, being in this walk, you're automatically going to go through different tests and trials and tribulations. You know, situations are going to come up that you like, what in the world is going on? But that's where your foundation comes into play. Is how you're going to be able to handle these things. All right. And when that happens, then when you go to the Father and you're asking him for certain things, you know, you can go in with confidence knowing that you got your foundation set and that you're doing what you're supposed to do. So when you ask the Father for help, he's going to give it to you. But if you're not, if you're cussing out somebody one day and getting in trouble and asking Father for help the next day, it's not going to work like that. That's not the correct mindset to have. Right? All right. For example, after recounting examples of Elohim's deliverance, Peter concludes that Yahuah knows how to rescue set apart men from trials and to hold the unrighteous for the day of judgment. 2 Peter 2:9. Then Yahuah knows how to rescue the righteous from trials and to keep the unrighteous under punishment until the day of judgment. Where's your mind at? Now, Peter draws on the fact that spiritual beings are reserved for judgment and to argue that Elohim surely has judgment planned for those who intentionally live unjust and wicked lives without repenting, especially those who should know better. If you're in this walk and you know better, you still going out there doing stuff that's in the world, but then when you get in trouble, you want to call on them. For we know, Hebrews 10:20-27, for if we go on sinning deliberately after receiving the knowledge of the truth, there no longer remains a sacrifice for sins, but a fearful expectation of judgment and a fury of fire that will consume the adversaries. I think that was one of the questions, you know, somebody asked, Why can't we just go on and continue to sin and then at the last second try to repent? No. Not if you already know what you're doing is wrong. All right. Elohim still delivers his people from deadly peril. 2 Corinthians 1:10 and 2 Timothy 4:17, and from wicked men. So he delivered us from such a deadly peril, and he will deliver us. O him we have set our hope that he will deliver us again. But the sovereign stood by me and strengthened me, so that through me the message might be fully proclaimed, and all the Gentiles might hear it. So I was rescued from the lion's mouth. Okay. Almost done here. The dominant idea in the New Testament is Elohim's deliverance from humankind's greatest fears, which are sin, evil, death, and judgment. Right? These are all the things that we pray to the Father to deliver us from all the time. Oh, Father, help me from this, right? The theological usage is closely aligned with the biblical terms for salvation and redemption. Believers are to pray for deliverance from the threat of evil that dominates the world. All right. So let me read that one more time. Believers are to pray for deliverance from the threat of evil that dominates the world. The key word is believers. But Moreh Chanan has a video. As a matter of fact, he has two videos. One talks about imaginations and the other about thoughts. These right here. Now, both of these videos outline the steps needed when faced with unseen forces. Right? These two will help those out there that need help when the enemy attacks the mind. Now, I brought these videos up because in order for the Father to deliver you from evil, one of the most important things you need to do, it says it in sickness, you need to believe, right? Not only that, but guess what? You have to act on that belief. When the enemy attacks you mentally, there are steps that will aid you in putting those attacks in check, but you have to do your part. When asking for help from the Father, he can help you, but you will have to do, you will have to do what's required of you. When you're going through something that you know you just can't handle by yourself and you call upon a Moreh, he will point you in the direction you need to go. But it's up to you to carry out what needs to actually be done, right? You heard me use the phrase, you need to stay on your square, which just means, to be honest and open and straightforward. You have to make a decision on whether you are for the Father or not. This is how you set your foundation. You have to make sure that the Father is at the center of your life every single day. Being in this truth automatically means trials, tests, and tribulations right off top. Not only will the Father put you through some things, but just like what we saw with Job, the Father will also allow some things to happen. Where do I come in, Moreh? I'm glad you asked. Where you come in will be determined by how much effort you put into this walk. You can't be for the Father when it's convenient for you. You have to let the Father know that he is worthy every single day, no matter what you're going through. That's what he's looking for, knowing that you are trying your best to perfect his words in your heart. Living out these laws, statutes, and commandments. Then you can expect the Father to do something supernatural in your life. And even then, it's going to happen on his time. All right. So now the question becomes, what are you going to do once you are delivered? All right. Any questions pertaining to the lesson? I'm on Moreh status now, boy. I'm taking these things an hour and beyond.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
All right. Hallelujah. Now,
Yeah.
before we go, we got these questions that we asked y'all to send in to us. One question stood out a little bit. That was like, I didn't know that we were still on this, but I guess we are. So let me ask the question. Can a woman wear pants? What do y'all say? Yes or no?
Oh, you want me to answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, great. So, you want my long answer or my shortened version?
Oh my goodness.
Long,
No, no, don't. I still got to do it too. What's the
long.
short answer?
Okay,
Let,
if you gotta
let's
do it,
start with
then
that. What's your short answer?
so the short answer would be yes, they can. Uh,
Mhm.
so I'll stop there, and then we can.
We'll pick back up, huh? Okay. Now, the verse that everybody uses is what? Deuteronomy 22:5, right? A woman should not wear a man's garment or what pertaining to a man, as it was saying in the KJV. Nor shall a man put on a woman's cloak. But whoever does these things is abomination to Yahuah, your Elohim. Now I'm gonna give the technical answer, and I'm pretty sure Moreh is gonna give the not so technical answer. Now, technically, the word for garment here is the H3627, right? Khalid. And look at all that stuff that it encompasses. Any apparatus as an implement, utensil, dress, vessel, or weapon, armor, artillery, whatsoever. It goes on, right? And the masculine now occurs some 320 times in the Old Testament. It is not found in Aramaic passages, but was recorded in the Jewish Aramaic with a range of meanings that corresponds to what it says in the Old Testament, basically saying that this has something to do with utensils or objects, right? Even the Dead Sea Scrolls also use kli primary in the sense of weapons, right? Now, what about when it comes to a man? All right, for cloak, it's the 80, 70, 71 is the simla. All right. Now this is clothes actually, but it's a dress, especially a mantle or apparel cloth or garment or raiment. Now this is an outer garment, as you can see here in these pictures. All right, it's an outer garment. This refers to a cloak, outer garment that will be worn over an undergarment, such as a tunic you have there. The outer garment was appropriate to both genders, though apparently of gender-specific designs, just like we read in Deuteronomy 22:5. The garment not only provided warmth and protection from the elements, but also served as bedding. All right. So the Septuagint translates this as in the Greek as Manumission, the Greek term used for an outer garment or a cloak. So as long as a man was wearing the gender-specific type of covering, he was okay. Now notice this would go over a tunic. All right. Not pants because they didn't wear pants that day. And look at this picture. Do you see anybody wearing pants? Uh, uh, these are your ancestors being captive. Ain't nobody got on no pants. Everybody had a tunic. And if you're really looking, you can see the apparatuses that they had on. All right. All right. Now, did men wear underwear? Hmm? That's where the other part of the argument comes from, because they want to talk about breeches. So Exodus 28:42. And thou shalt make them linen breeches to cover their nakedness. From the loins even unto the thighs they shall reach. All right. In the ESV, you shall make for them linen undergarments to cover their naked flesh. They shall reach them to the hips, to the thighs, right? I think that's where most of the doctrine comes from. They see this and say, well, the men are wearing pants and therefore the women shouldn't be able to wear it, right? But,
Those are boxers.
but hey, look, they call them pants. That's what they said. All right. Now, the H43 and 70 is the Miknas, the sense of hiding drawers, concealing the private parts. That's what the breeches were, the boxes, as Moreh would say.
Male Victoria's Secrets.
Yeah, that's what it was. They came up to your thighs. Now, did women wear underwear? Hmm. Isaiah 3:23, the glasses and the fine linen, and the hoods and the veils. And the same thing for the ESV, the mirrors, the linen garments, the turbans, and the veils. Now, the H5466, the sardine, it's a root, it's an envelope, a wrapper, i.e. a shirt or fine linen. All right, it's a wide garment made of linen worn on the naked body under the other garments. It was a slip. That's what they would wear. It was a slip. So the men had on the boxers and the women had on the slip. There still wasn't no pants worn. Nobody wore pants. All right. So Moreh, what you say?
I never seen no man wearing, I mean, today, sure. Back in the day, they would have worn apple bottom jeans.
Mm-mm.
Like I say, the all the photos that you've seen before the Greeks came in, before the conquering came in, you'll see that there were males wearing robes and females wearing robes.
Mm-hmm.
But there were things that women wore, let's say, to just to keep it clean, things like for their breast. Men didn't have to wear that, whereas women did. So the things that pertain to a man, had nothing to do with pants. So since we're strictly talking about pants, it had nothing to do with that at all. So when the invention of pants came in on the scene, yes, the men started off the creators of the pants, and then later on, but they still wanted to keep the women wearing skirts and dresses, and then later they created female pants, and it started going there. I think sometimes ones were buttons and ones the way they zipped. I forget how all that stuff works for women. But my point though is that, if they're going to go back to scripture, they can't say that scripture was talking about pants. That's not what scripture was talking about. That didn't exist in their day.
Mm-mm. No, indeed. So I guess we clear that up for once for all.
Well, the other part though is that you guys,
Tomorrow.
one more part though, that because of that, that doesn't give the woman the green light to be wearing tight fitted, form fitting jeans, showing curves and figures, because there still needs to be a modest apparel. So they should be wearing
Go
something
Daisy
that
Dukes.
cover those things, like a tunic, if you will, that will cover, at least up to the thighs or knees, where it shouldn't be. Now, of course, the sister may say, well, I can't help it if I got this Coke bottle shape, or I'm just that thick, or I was blessed, I came out of the Coke bottle,
This is how I was made, Moreh.
but I'm saying is, but when you when you go to the extent of wearing stuff to show, that is what I'm getting at. That's where you make it wrong, because now you be creating stumbling blocks for those that, are not trying to do that. So you can, do better preparation with your clothing, so that it would not cause any issues for another person anyway. But of course, the response for some people that I've heard was, well, they shouldn't be looking anyway, or okay, it's not my fault, but it can be your fault. And number two is, if you're responsible for that stumbling block, and you could have done better, you should have done better. So, or if a person is weak in that area, or a person is new in that area, you still have a duty to be able to do things what is right.
Mm-hmm.
Modesty is the best policy.
Mm-hmm.
I got a question.
Okay.
Just real quick, speaking on that, because I've encountered that conversation before, and they always seem to reference Exodus 28 verse 42. So, like, how exactly would you answer that?
Okay, they'll just pull up Exodus 28 for everybody.
Okay, hold on. Give me a second. Stop sharing for a second. All right, what was it? Exodus what?
28:42.
48:22 or 28:22?
Exodus 28 verse 42.
Okay.
Right, but that's the one that he went over.
You went over that already.
If you're talking about breeches, that's the one he already went over, where it talks about those are actually male boxers. Remember, he's talking
Mm-hmm.
about boxers. That's the breeches that covers their nakedness. Notice the definition of the word breeches lets you know that it was actually like boxer. They tell you the length of it and everything, and it's in the undergarment, not something that's on the outside.
But nowadays you see them wearing it on the outside.
Right.
His pants are sagging. Yeah.
Is that the one you were referring to, Aki Miknase, in the Hebrew, where they're talking about breeches, and is that the one you were referring to?
Meekness. Yeah, yeah.
Right. So you remember it says, and you shall make them linen breeches to cover their nakedness from the loin even to the where? To the thigh they shall reach. Again, that's talking specifically about what's going to be underneath their robe. That they're to have these breeches that's going to cover their nakedness, the part that is considered boxers for us today.
Yeah, I think the issue was the translation, because the translation said trousers, or the one I had said trousers. So I had to switch back to the KJV, and I see what you're talking about. And then the Hebrew makes it clear. So thank you. What up?
No problem.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? You would think it would be an easy issue to solve, but it's really not.
Well, I think there's something, like you say, like about you was sharing. Sometimes it could be translation, but the objective is for us is we're going beyond translation. We got to go and see what's actually meaning and in its context. I mean, if even it said trousers in whatever translation, specific, it will have, thou shalt not make them linen trousers to cover what? Still their nakedness.
Their nakedness.
From where? The loins even unto the thigh. It's still going to tell you what it is. It's not, because then the pants is covering what? From the waist all the way down to your ankles. It's not the same garment that they would wear.
Mm-hmm. All right. I think that is it.
All right then. Hallelujah.
Yeah.